I'm lecturer from Praveen Patil College of Diploma Engineering and Technology. Next, we will study about the practical number 7. The practical number 7, we have a construct SR, JK, D and T flip-flop and verify their truth table. Okay. So, what is a flip-flop? And in the flip-flop, we have a latches and flip-flop. A latch is a type of a temporary storage device which has a two stable state. It is a different from flip-flop. Okay. So, the flip-flop is both of them are basically bistable devices that having a two stable state. एक होता है there is a two stable state means one is a 0 and one is a 1. A latch has got an enable input as long as it is active. The latch output will keep changing according to the changes in its input. In another word, latch is a lever triggered flip-flop. But the flip-flop is a sequential circuit which generally samples its input and changes its output only on a particular instant of a time and not a continuously. The flip-flop are therefore said to be age sensitive or age trigger rather than being a level triggered latch. So in that we have a 1-bit memory cell. Okay, the flip-flop is also known as a basic digital memory circuit. It has a two stable state, namely logic 1 state and logic 0 state. We can design it either using a NOR gate or a NAND gate. A flip-flop can be designed by using the fundamental circuit, that is a NAND gate 1 and 2 are basically acting as an inverter. Hence this circuit is called as a cross coupled circuit. Okay, so this is the flip-flop 1-bit memory cell and the flip-flop are the sequential circuit. So the sequential circuit have the present input and the past output. The memory is necessary in the sequential circuit because we store the past output and input. The clock input also the necessary. In the flip-flop, we have a register, flip-flop counters and the register. So this is the small introduction about the flip-flop. Next is your practical about the flip-flop. So this is the program outcome. We can see that the relevant program outcome and then the how we can handle the what is the outcome. So the practical outcome, what is the practical outcome? You have to construct the SR, JK, D and T flip-flop. As we can see that this is a sequential circuit. So sequential circuit will store the present and past input also. So first we will see that the types of flip-flop. In the types of flip-flop, we have a SR flip-flop, JK flip-flop, D flip-flop and T flip-flop. You can see here we have a three flip-flops. SR flip-flop, JK flip-flop, D flip-flop and T flip-flop. So the commercially available list of IC which provide the multiplexing. Okay, अब कौन से पोर्ट पे कौन से फ्लिप फ्लॉप चलते हैं मैं बताती हूँ. पार्ट नंबर से पोर्ट नंबर 7473 ड्यूअल जेके फ्लिप फ्लॉप और सिंक्रोनस एंड क्लियर. 7474 ड्यूअल डी पॉजिटिव एज ट्रिगर फ्लिप फ्लॉप और सिंक्रोनस प्रीसेट एंड क्लियर. 7475 4-bit bistable latch. 7476 dual JK flip flop, asynchronous, present and clear. So these are the some list of IC which are provided for a multiplexing and for the flip flop. Next is here. This is the practical setup for the SR flip flop. You can see here is the practical setup for the SR flip flop. You can see the diagram. There is a two NOR gate, two resistor and two LED. Okay. Next for the JK flip flop. This is the practical setup for the JK flip flop. You can see this. I will share PPT with you of this so you can see it properly. This is a practical setup of SR flip flop and this is a practical setup of JK flip flop. This is the practical setup of D flip flop. This is the practical setup of T flip flop. During the practical you have to do this setup. So this is only the practical. You can see here how we can do the practical setup when the practical are going. Next is what resources are required. That is most important. What resources are required? Digital multimeter, 3 1/2 digit display, quantity we required 2. Breadboard, general purpose breadboard, we require a quantity of 1. DC power supply 5 volt, fixed power supply quantity of 1. IC 7476 and 7402, one of each. LED in red color or a green color 5 mm, one each. Connecting wires single strand 0.6 mm telephone coating LS. Digital IC tester, test a wide range of a digital like a 7474 series or 40/45 series of CMOS IC. You require a one. So this is the resource required if you are doing, but you cannot do at home. But if the resources are required, what type of resources are required for the practical, you have a given, and if you want to do, you can use this. नेक्स्ट इज योर रिसोर्सेस यूज जो हम लोग प्रैक्टिकल में यूज करते हैं. दीज आर दिस रिसोर्सेज. 7476 7402 वन क्वांटिटी होता है. ब्रेडबोर्ड का एक जनरल क्वांटिटी होता है. And depending upon that JK flip flop and the practical implementation or the practical, you can see in the previous, this is for the SR flip flop, this is for the JK flip flop, this is for the T flip flop, and this is for D flip flop, T flip flop. This is a setup. On this use you can set up the practical and you have to test the IC. Finally you will get a SR flip flop. The SR flip flop you will get a input if the input is 0 0, Q and Q bar is 0 and 1. If 0 1, then the 0 1. If 1 0, then the 1 0. 1 1 0 0. This is the output for the SR flip flop. For JK flip flop, so you have to understand the truth tables. For the JK flip flop, we have a value 0 0, then the 0 and 0. Reset, you can say that if the 0 1, then 0 and 1. If the JK is 1, input is 1 0, then the output become 1 and 0. And if the 1 1, then it is a race around condition. This is for D flip flop 0 1. Okay. I think so. D flip flop is, and this is for a D flip flop. For the D flip flop, we cannot given. We will discuss in the, we have in the theory lecture. We can see the D flip flop truth table. So mainly is SR and JK flip flop. Next is your, what is the memory related things as a memory element. So now we'll discuss about the some of the things that I will tell you in the practical number 7. List 4 basic flip flop applications. So what is the flip flop application? As a memory element in a various types of register, in counter timer, as a delay element. These are the application. Next is your, I will discuss about you some of the question answers thing, that is in the practical number 7. In the practical number 7, one example of the use of an SR flip flop. So the things are transition pulse generator, racer, switch debouncer, stable oscillator. We can choose the switch debouncer. Next is your, what is a trigger pulse? So the trigger pulse is an asynchronous event that causes a specific change in a logical state. Typically it is wired to the set or reset input of a stateful circuit element. Next is your 5th, a basic SR flip flop can be constructed by cross coupling of which basic logic gate. So you can see that it is only use a NOR and NAND gate, so you have to write a NOR and NOND gate. Okay. Next is here, write the significance of the JK terminal. There is no known significance in their designation. The J represented the jump, which is how the Q output react whether the clock goes high, and the J input is also high. The cross-coupled connection from the output of the one gate to the input of the other gate constitute a feedback path. For this reason, the circuits of NOR-based SR large classify as a asynchronous sequential circuit. Then, how many flip-flops are in the IC 7476 IC? So total 4 into SR flip-flop, 10 into AND gate, 4 into NOR gate, 1 into OR gate, and 6 into inverter. Then the 9th question is, give reason of D flip-flop receive its designation or as a data flip-flop. Due to its capability to transfer the data into flip-flop, so we can use the D flip-flop. Okay, give 2 applications of a T flip-flop. T flip-flop experience a change in output in each clock age. It can be used as a frequency divider. Okay, so these are the some applications. So these are the some question answer. Later you can see that and you can study that. Okay, so now we'll end up with the practical number 7. Thank you. And the latter some part is discussing the theory part, what how the calculation is to be done. So this is the practical part. Thank you.